What's going on, guys? T2RX6 here, back for another third-party Transformers review, and today we're going to take a look at iGear's Hench. And he is a very, very distinct version of Brawn. You can see the similarities on all sides. Gas tank's a little bit big, I guess, but other than that, he looks pretty good. And as you can tell, I do have the repro labels on it, which I think really do add a lot with the colored windows and to kind of break up these huge gas tanks and give some tail lights, stuff like that. It's not bad. Now, I do have a couple gripes with this toy that I feel like iGear should have done something about, but we'll get into them later. Let's pull out a Classics Bumblebee. You can see how they size up pretty close in size. Brawn's a little bit taller, but a little bit shorter. Really pretty nice size comparison there, especially if this is the scale of your mini-bots. Now, Brawn and the new Cosmos did give people problems because this was the original mini-bots and now they came out more expensive like this. I prefer to have them in scale with B than like this, so that's okay. It doesn't really bother me. Some people are pretty bothered by it. He does come with a gun here. It's kind of like a shotgun. Looks pretty good. And it can peg right into his roof. Now this is one of the things that I kind of have a gripe about, is not that it plugs into the roof, but I feel like it would have been cool if this had some kind of swivel or something engineered so you could make use of all this dead space underneath here to store it away when you didn't want to put it on the roof, because believe it or not, I don't like displaying things in a vehicle mode with the guns on the roof. I really don't like that. And you've got all this wasted space. In fact, it goes right in between there, so why they didn't, you know, put in a peg hole here or something and make everything all fold up, and then at least it would kind of fill in some of the space here, even though that'll be hard to see. Yeah, so this is also kind of a problem, that there's this big gap here, but it's kind of a minor problem, but it's something that I feel like, you know, especially for the added price and stuff, we probably could have gotten something like that in there, but I don't know. So to transform this guy, because there's really not much more to say about his vehicle mode except the fact that he looks like a really messed up robot if you flip him on his rear here. To transform him, what you're going to do is start by taking his door wings and pulling them on up like so, and then we'll just kind of pull out our leg pieces like this. He does have kind of an interesting transformation of the legs. Fold in this little flap piece. We'll deal with that after. So what you gotta do is rotate these on down, obviously, because these are his thighs, and then you kind of have to mess with the positioning of the leg here, because what you need to do is get this in a position that you can rotate the one half of the car past it and then lock it into place. And once this is locked in place, it's actually fairly hard to get undone. It takes quite a bit of force to separate these two channels, so that's a pretty nice solid connection. So you'll get that with the leg. And you can see this one leg of mine is extraordinarily loose. I've put nail polish on it like 3 or 4 times and it just keeps doing that. I'm sure that that's just a problem with mine and not something that you should really expect to have to deal with. So basically you're going to keep his leg kind of like this when you're doing it, and then that should give you the clearance you need to get past the socket here. Maybe not. There we go. The knee is kind of annoying to get done. And once you have that, a common mistransformation is to not flip his pelvis and just leave that awful screw hole. We'll get to that after. So we'll come back to his arms here, and you kind of pull these on out from the side, and that's why we'll get back to the waist, because they actually kind of block your waist from pivoting around. So once it pivots, you'll see it fills in the front there a lot better. Now it's just a matter of kind of tidying up his arms here a little bit, like so. Whoops, and this comes off on mine fairly frequently. It's just a ball joint there that pops back in. But it is easy to pop some of these ball joints out, especially when you're trying to get that perfect pose. And then once you have this, you'll take this and just kind of fold it on into his back here. Now you can kind of do what you want. You can leave the wings open like that. I just prefer to keep them closed because I think it looks better, personally. Your mileage may vary. And there you go. You've got Brawn in his robot mode. And he does look pretty good. He's got good articulation. Based on a bunch of ball joints, you're only kind of hindered a little by some of his own backpack kibble. Nice arms, rotation. Obviously you saw the ball joint that popped out, elbow ball joint. His head is on a ball joint, and this brings me to my next piece of contention. When we had our Rager here, it's almost impossible to turn his head. And so I don't know if iGear thought that by making him bigger would solve the problem, but it is almost impossible to turn his head too. The best I can find is to try to get like a fingernail in here and a finger on the other side and just push by the edge of his helmet here, and I can usually kind of turn it, but it's really annoying. And that's a problem because he has a head gimmick here. So let's take a look at his face here real quick so we can take a look. It's very much a movie or G1 cartoon Brawn, I should say. Looks really nice. Blue eyes in there. They don't come out too well just because of the lighting, but they're in there. And then what you can do, I'm gonna zoom out so you don't have to see my fingers so close, is take this and you can rotate his head around if you're lucky. And I actually find it easier to get to this head mode versus getting back from it. You can kind of set it like this, and now you've got his Generation 1 toy head. And let's actually take our G1 toy here real quick, just for comparison's sake. And I will get him transformed, and we'll do him on camera because he takes all of 2 seconds. Maybe 3. I think 2 seconds is already up. That's okay. So there you go. We got his Generation 1 toy, very robotic with the robotic arms. And you can just kind of see that their head modes are very similar. Now at first I was a little bit bothered because you can see the like square plate here, but it doesn't look so bad, especially when you compare it to his standard head. It almost looks like a visor just flipped down in front of his face. So I actually became alright with that pretty shortly after messing with him for a little bit. So for comparison, again, we have it here. There he is next to his G1 counterpart, looking pretty good. And you already saw it, but I'll bring it out again. Here he is next to Huffer. And let's give this guy his shotgun too, because why not? He holds it very nicely. And finally, of course, we've got the Generation 1, or the classics I should say, Bumblebee mold in its robot mode. And you can see fairly similar in height. The Bumblebee mold is a little bit taller to the head, but the overall height of Brawn is about the same. So, like I said, getting him out of this back to his regular head is a huge pain that tends not to go very well for me. Except now that I'm on camera and telling you it's a huge pain, it wasn't so bad. But I swear I've been struggling with it every time except for that one. Yeah, he's a pretty cool toy. I just wish that there was something maybe like this, like flipped open, or you know, even pulled up just to let you get in there and kind of mess with it. Or even if the head could somehow like pull out on a swivel out here so you could pose it and then like kind of push it back in. There's all kinds of things I feel they could have done that haven't been done. But overall, it is a very good representation of Brawn, and I have no problem saying if you want a classics Brawn that's about Bumblebee sized on your shelf, this is the guy to get. So this is T2RX6. I hope you guys enjoyed the review, and I'll see you next time.